Hey guys, this is Jesse from FDL-1.com. We are back for part 2 of assembling an FDL-1 blaster. If you haven't watched part 1 of these assembly videos yet, I highly suggest going back and doing so. Like I mentioned in that, these videos assume that you have either purchased an FDL-1 kit or you've printed your own parts and then purchased an electronics and hardware bundle. So in the last video, we got through assembling most of the back of the blaster. We got the center wiring in place as well as the power distribution. We got all the wires neatly tucked around this plunger guide, pulled up into the electronics kind of cavity back here. We also got all the PCBs hooked up and then everything capped off with the electronics cap. So still left, we have to get the rest of the revolver built as well as the barrel and flywheels up front. We'll have to get the electronics on the bottom capped off, and then the ESCs in place and wired up. And then we'll assemble the handle in the back, and we should be good to go. So let's go ahead and get the rest of the revolver and the revolver body all built. We have the stepper motor in place for the revolver here. We just need to install the adapter that the whole revolver piece will attach to the motor on. There's a hexagonal shape in the back of here. This adapter matches that shape and has a set screw in the side of it. Just like the plunger motor, this stepper motor has a flat spot on the side of there. So when we put the set screw in and then put that on the end, we want to match up the set screw with that flat side. So the hole for the set screw goes on this side. When you put it in, you need to be able to kind of access it from the side to adjust it if necessary. It should go on there pretty accurately though. If you just push it back, don't push it super hard because you don't want it like rubbing against the motor, but push it back until it stops. And that should actually be just the right distance. And then we can actually go ahead and put the entire revolver piece on here. We'll swivel that to the back, out of the way. So once you push it in, that adapter piece should actually hold it out just a little bit from the end so that it spins freely. And then you'll see as you spin it, it pushes the advance switch back and forth in the bottom. So then we can go ahead and put on these two brace pieces here. They're both the same thing, they could go on either side. So this takes 4 3/8 632 machine screws on either side here and either side there for a total of 8. Before we go ahead and actually put on the front plate, we want to grab this bushing piece and install that first. The revolver is going to ride in this hole here on that bushing. So actually, before I get too far, there are these two small clips that go right here on the front plate. The wiring between the motor and the ESC is going to get clipped into there, and it keeps it out of the way of the flywheel. Okay, and then in these holes we're actually going to use the 1/2" machine screws, and then the bottom two are going to again be the 3/8 machine screws. Okay, so we got the main revolver body all together, spinning around nice and freely, and the switch on the bottom is working really well. So we can actually set that aside for a minute, and we'll go ahead and we'll build out the barrel. Actually, first things first, we want to attach the flywheels to the motors. So the flywheels on one side have kind of a cup to them. That cup side is the side that goes against the motor. The cup actually provides a little bit of a cooling space underneath the motor so that it doesn't get too hot and burn itself out. To attach these, we use these little tiny M2 flathead screws. They're going to drop down through these slots, and you can screw them into the motor with a 1.5 millimeter Allen wrench. So you want to get each one of these a little loose in place first before you tighten them all down, so that everything's centered and flat and aligned properly. Okay, once you get them all in there snug, then you can go ahead and tighten them down. And these screws are tightening into the metal of the motor, so you can get them fairly snug. But don't tighten them so far that you can't get them out later on if you need. And then repeat on the other motor. Okay, so now we'll go ahead and we'll attach the motors to the main barrel piece. This will take 4 on each motor of the M3x8 hex screws. When you put the motors on here, so you want to orient it this way, and then your motors attach from the bottom like that. You want to attach them so that the wire goes kind of diagonally back and in towards the center of the barrel. And again, get each of these kind of just snug in place before you tighten them all down. These also screw into the metal of the motor as well, so you can get them fairly snug. Same thing with this one. Mount it so that the wire goes diagonally in towards the center of the barrel and back. Okay, once you get that together, then we can mount this on the rest of the blaster. These flywheel guards will go on once we have it mounted on. So you have one really long machine screw in your kit, and that is going to go down through this hole in the front of the barrel and then screw into this spot on the front of the blaster. The other 2 screws on the barrel are underneath, and those will attach with 2 3/8 machine screws. Okay, once you get that in place, the flywheel guard will slide down over the top of the flywheels, and then these 2 holes up front, take 2 1/2-inch machine screws And there's kind of a wedge back here that holds this into place, so you only need to screw in the front. Okay, so now that we have all that together, we can go ahead and cap off the wiring on the bottom, and we'll get the ESCs in place. Before we put this main cap on there, we want to get the two ESC brackets mounted. These on one side have this kind of notch into them. The notch goes towards the back of the blaster. And those will go on with 3/8 machine screws. And the other side. Okay, once those are tightened down, we can go ahead and get the ESCs installed. So there is a right hand and a left hand ESC. On each one of the wires is shorter than the other, and the shorter wire is going to be towards the front of the blaster. So whichever one falls onto that side is going to be the one. I'll probably mark these in the kit too, so it would be easy. So this one's going to go on the left side, and they kind of just rest in those brackets. And then when you connect the power leads, make sure that you're holding on one side. Like, these are friction fit in here, but they're not permanently fit in there. So you do want to hold that as you're connecting the power leads. And of course, make sure that black matches to black and red matches to red. And then the ESC wires here, the black will go up away from the blaster. I'll trim these down in the kits, but I'm gonna tuck this out of the way, actually just behind the ESC itself. And then the same thing on the other side. Just get that kind of in place. Hold on to your power wires, plug them in, red to red, black to black, and then the data and power cable here, go the black wire up away from the body of the blaster. Okay, then we'll go ahead and we'll actually cap all that wiring off. Assuming that all of your wiring that you ran back here is nice and neat, this cap should go on relatively easily. And then we have two 3/4 inch machine screws that go up front, and then two 3/8 machine screws that go in the back. Okay, now that we have those in place, we can actually hook the motors up to the ESCs. So you have 3 leads coming from the motor, and then 3 terminals on the ESC. At this point in time, it doesn't matter which of the 3 go in the 3 terminals on the ESC. Later on, when we determine the rotation of the motor, if it's going the wrong way, you just switch any of the 2 leads, and it'll go the opposite direction. Okay, then once you get them in place, you can carefully guide all the wires into the clip up front. And that'll hold them out of the way of the flywheels. And then the same thing on the other side. It's actually a little easier now that I think about it, to get each of the wires into the clip first, and then plug them into the ESC. There we go. Okay, so this is the main piece on the handle. The trigger button will go in this hole here. So what you're going to want to do is feed your wire through first, and then put your lock washer on, and the nut. There's not a lot of room inside here to really get a tool in. One thing you can do is actually hold the nut from the inside and then turn the entire switch to get it nice and tight. Once you get the trigger into place, you can take the wires and feed them through this channel underneath here. There's actually like 2 clips that the wire clips into. And then grab your 2 side pieces. Depending on if you have ordered a left or a right hand gun, we are assembling a right hand gun right now. If you ordered a left hand blaster, this wire would actually come out the other side. A number of the pieces would actually be printed mirrored so that they face the opposite direction. But for right now, the wire comes out the left side. There's this piece with this spot to take the PCB on here, and that's going to go on the left side too. There's a small hole in the bottom here that you feed that trigger wire through, and then attach the bottom with 2 3/8 machine screws. Okay, and then this PCB with the speed knob kind of just rests into place inside the slot that's cut out in the printed piece for it. There's 2 male right angle pins right here that this wire will plug into. You can push some of that wire back into the handle in order to give you some room to connect the trigger switch to those pins. And then once you have that in place, you have this cap that goes over the top of it. And then that screws into place again with 2 3/8 machine screws. Once you get that there, then you can put your knob in place. This particular potentiometer has a flat side on here, so we'll just line the screw on the knob up with that and tighten this down. Make sure that you can turn the knob freely on there. If you can't, then you probably have to lift the knob just a little bit and tighten it. And then the other side, this piece can go any direction on here. Just attach it with 2 3/8 machine screws. There you go, there's your handle piece. Now, on this side with the speed knob, there's this female header piece. So this entire handle will just slide on, and if you line that header piece up inside the slot, it'll make the connection between the handle and the rest of the blaster. And then 2 on this side and 2 on the other side, more 3/8 machine screws. And last but not least, we have the handle guard here. We're going to have 2 1-inch machine screws that screw into both spots on this guard. On each of the spots that it screws in, one of these holes is a little bigger than the other one, and this machine screw will slide through, and then the other one has the threads in it. Okay, before we attach the other side of the handle guard here, I want to show you guys how the battery is installed here too. I'm going to give you links to various different battery models that I've had good luck with, but the one that you end up with may not be this exact battery. Whatever battery you get does have to fit inside the handle here. Then you can go ahead and close up the handle guard. And then the battery wiring runs along that guard underneath and plugs in there. And then I'm also going to include a couple pieces of double-sided Velcro in your kit too. I'd like to come up with a better solution than this in the future, but I actually really like double-sided Velcro. I have kind of a thing with it. So I'm going to give a little bit to everybody. You can use that to wrap around the handle guard and get all your wiring into place. So there you go. Now you have an assembled FDL-1 blaster. I'm going to do another video where we actually boot the blaster up, and I'll go through the operation of it, how to fire it, how to advance it, how to adjust the speed, all of its different operations, as well as safety precautions. But for now, thanks for watching.